are precious to Jesus. You are called to preserve and share with the entire earth how to love God and how to love man. Happy are the poor in spirit who realize this. Happy are they who mourn the world's sins and their own, for they shall be forgiven and comforted. Happy are the meek who humbly acknowledge that they are sinners. Happy are those who hunger and thirst for Christ-likeness. Turning our attention from loving God to loving man, Jesus adds these words: happy are the merciful who have compassion on others, for they are sinners too. Happy are the pure in heart who love to obey God and love to love mankind, even when others do not. Happy are the peacemakers who pursue peace with God and man, even when it's difficult. And happy are the persecuted who aren't surprised when they suffer or afraid to do so, because their faith is authentic and because a great reward awaits them in heaven. And though they be small in number and seemingly insignificant, they know their influence by God's grace can be global and eternally significant. Why? Because people preaching truth and love about Jesus stick out in this world. Not like a sore thumb, but like a bright light. We're going to talk more about that next week. Their consecration, their integrity, their intelligence, their industry, their energy, their tact have a commanding influence for good. Gospel Workers, page 111. And the resurrected Jesus knew this. So before he died, he prayed for their influence in the earth, saying in John 17, verse 19, I give myself as a holy sacrifice for them so they can be made holy by your truth. But in order for salt to preserve jerky or anything else in the earth, it must be mingled with the substance to which it is added. It must be absorbed. It must be infused in order to be preserved. Do you guys understand this? Do you see why we're called to mingle with men, to desire their good, to bid them follow Jesus? People are not saved in masses. People are saved individually. And so they must be reached individually. Some people may never come up here for an altar call at the end of the sermon, but they might come to your house for a care group. Some men may not walk into church right away, but they might change some tires or start a bonfire with a flamethrower at men's ministries. I've done that. Some teens might not feel comfortable dressing up and singing hymns that are 500 years old, but they wouldn't mind listening to K-Love on a speaker during game night. but you don't have any kids. But don't you want to reach some? What if we saw every ministry, meal, gathering, class, Bible study, social, or nominated position in church, not as something to participate in only if we benefit from it, but as an opportunity to be salt? We are all influencers called by God to make a personal impact. This is what I was telling the church in our business meeting recently. What if some small part of everything we fund and everything we do and everything that we organize was intentionally evangelistic? I met a guy at a men's ministry retreat last fall. Kept in touch with him. Works in Waco. Helped him write his testimony. And he'll be sharing it with us on June 7th. So you're not going to want to miss that. Hospital-sponsored events you attend can be missional and evangelistic. The next one we're hosting is June 29 right here in our fellowship hall from 11 to 2. It's about summer safety. But who from our church will be there to mingle with our guests, to introduce themselves with a smile, to thank them for coming to this event, and if they don't have a church, to invite them to come back to this one? I was happy the adventurers invited their friends and their cousins to their pajama party. Pathfinders does not have to be just for our kids either. Diabetes Undone is evangelistic. Do you need help with diabetes? Doesn't matter. Because 50% of those present are community guests. You're not going to get help with diabetes. You're going to meet the people that are there. Walk with a Doc is evangelistic. So why walk alone? Why are we walking with already baptized members of our own church? Potluck could be evangelistic. But some guests sit all by themselves. Men's ministry can be evangelistic. Women's ministry can be evangelistic. Prison ministry is evangelistic. Our radio station is finally back online as of yesterday. Can't wait for local content to be on our church radio station because radio is evangelistic. Homeless shelters, meals is evangelistic. Tabitha's Closet is evangelistic. Tech team is evangelistic. How do you think I get these weird calls weeks later about something I said that I don't even remember that people are texting me about? Because it's archived and it's streamed live. VBS is evangelistic. October Blast is evangelistic. And you could be part of those ministries. Maybe not all of them. Nobody needs to stroke out or burn out. But what if every single person here was a part of one other ministry? That'd be wonderful. If we all have influence, shouldn't we all be using it? Shouldn't every member be actively supporting at least one other ministry so that nobody in that ministry gets discouraged and worn out? And wouldn't heaven be rejoicing if each ministry share the 7 S's with that person or persons and baptize one person every year. That would be like 15 to 20 baptisms right there. 15 to 20 precious people Jesus died to save. Like Abram, we are called to be a blessing to the earth, to preserve truth and to share it in love. I love the way Ephesians chapter 4, 15 and 16 says it. We will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ. He's the head of the body. He's the head of the church. He makes the whole body fit together perfectly. As each part does its own special work, it helps the other parts grow so that the whole body is healthy and growing and full of love. Is our whole body healthy? Is our church family growing in love? Has everybody in this room accepted the mission? Paul did. Romans 1:16 says, I am not ashamed of the gospel, of the good news about Christ. I am not ashamed. Are you? Salt is precious. Salt preserves. And those who understand this persevere, even if they're not supported, even if they're mocked, even if they're persecuted. Matthew chapter 5, verse 11 talks about that. Even when it's difficult, even when it's dangerous. Spying out the promised land of Canaan was dangerous. But Caleb and Joshua still did so. Remember their exploits in Numbers chapters 13 and 14? There's a fun little song we used to sing about that. It went like this. 12 spies went to Canaan, 10 were bad, 2 were good. Some saw giants big and tall. Some saw grapes in clusters fall. Some saw God was in it all. 10 were bad. 2 were good. That's a beautiful rendition, I might add, from my days in junior camp meeting, coming back to bless me all these decades later. That song reminds me about the mission that God put Joshua and Caleb on. It reminds me about the mission that He's put us on. We are called to persevere in mission. Numbers chapter 14, verse 24 says it this way. Because my servant Caleb has a different spirit. You guys want a different spirit? Because my servant Caleb follows me wholeheartedly. Numbers 14:24. I will bring him into the land, and his descendants will inherit it. Caleb accepted the mission even though others did not. And because he persevered, even at 85 years of age, Joshua 14:10, Caleb's influence is still being felt today. In Palestine, salt was gathered from marshes along the seashore or from inland lakes. These crude facilities for gathering it resulted in the presence of many impurities. In contact with the ground or exposed to rain or sun, the highly soluble salt itself would be washed away, leaving only the useless impurities. That's why Jesus added the solemn warning in Matthew 5:13. But what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? The implied answer is no. That's why it will be thrown out. That's why it will be trampled underfoot. It's worthless. As they listened to the words of Jesus, the people could see the white salt glistening in the pathways where it had been cast out because it had lost its savor and was therefore useless. It represents the life of every person from whom the power of the grace of God has departed and who has become cold and Christless. If you don't use it, you can lose it. Revelation chapter 2, 4, and 5 says you can even lose your first love. But it doesn't have to be this way. Because when love fills the heart, it can keep flowing out to others in the earth. This makes us healthier and happier. Just like Caleb and Joshua, whose faithful words of good report were seasoned with salt and shared in love. Colossians 4, 5, and 6 says, walk in wisdom toward those who are outside, redeeming the time. Let your speech always be seasoned with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer each one. So let me ask you, are you redeeming the time? Are you walking in wisdom with those who are outside these walls? Have you accepted Christ's mission? If so, prove it. Not to me, but to God. Or you will lose it. Just like Jesus said. Jaira, who was baptized in May of 2023 by Pastor O, remains one of our youngest church members, but she understands salt. They were talking about it in junior Sabbath school recently, so she drew what they were talking about. And her parents, Lacey and Nadine, said it would be okay with her if we put her drawing on the cover of our bulletin this week. So if you haven't had a look, turn it over and have a look. It should be there. She drew that. It's a great drawing, isn't it? She drew this to remind us of our influence and our mission. To be salt that permeates and changes the world, not the other way around. And that's today's main point. Next week, we're going to learn a little bit more about being light as well. Because you are precious to Jesus. And so is everyone else He died to save.